Beating the base game of Cyberpunk 2077 as Adam Jensen was a blast, and you guys really seemed to like it, at least enough to ask for this video, one where I beat Phantom Liberty as Adam Jensen. The rules are the same as last time, I just ran through Phantom Liberty this time, and it was my first playthrough as well. For anyone who didn't see the first video, the idea is that I'll be trying to beat the game while using a build based on Deus Ex's prequel protagonist Adam Jensen, wearing an outfit as close to Adam's as possible, and using weapons that closely resemble Adam's arsenal in design and function. For a more in-depth explanation, I highly encourage you to check out the first video, I think you'll like it. Well, it should come as no surprise, but I'm just going to be using the same save file as the one from the first challenge right before meeting Hanako at Embers, so the continuity is there and all of our equipment and our build is the same. That also means that, like last time, we'll be doing this on the hardest difficulty. After driving over to Dogtown, I basically have a heart attack and then meet one of the focal new characters of this DLC, Songbird. Songbird, a high-level hacker that works for the NUSA, explains that her and the president of the NUSA, Rosalind Myers, are flying over Dogtown, a place in Night City that's hostile towards the NUSA, but their aircraft is being jammed and forced to land. She asks for our help in exchange for helping me to survive the relic, so, desperate for help from somebody who's displayed the ability to connect to and manipulate the relic, and out of a sense of obligation to the President of America, I accept the offer, use the relic point Songbird gives me as an advance to get emergency cloaking, allowing me to disappear from enemy notice if I activate my glass shield cloaking system, make my way into Dogtown, and start Phantom Liberty. I get to the top of a defunct skyscraper or apartment or something and watch as Kurt Hansen, the guy in charge of Dogtown and resident Rosalind Myers hater, shoots down the already crashing ship. Using a motorbike I find while running to the crash, trying to get there before Hansen's goons kill the president, I jump their blockade, activate my glass shield cloaking system to slip past all the enemies, take out all the goons between me and the president with my Zenith CA-40, punch the president in the face, and then rescue her from an onslaught of enemy soldiers with my FR-27 SFW and my Huntsman Silverback. Also, side note, I might have given the undue impression that I didn't like this build in the last video, but that's totally not true. It's not one of these crazy meta builds that I can use to kill Atom Smasher in like 30 seconds, but it is really good. In the base game, I pretty much got through everything with no issues due to the build being geared towards stealth, and having a lot of variety in weapon choice, AUGs, and approach, similarly to the actual Deus Ex prequels, and in the DLC, I actually found myself to be pretty overwhelmingly powerful most of the time. And I even did a brief test before recording where I played through up to this point on the easiest difficulty, and I was literally one-shotting everything. I never even got spotted from stealth. It was insane. Anyway, now I'm returning to a similar line of work that I used to be in as the Chief of Security of Seraph Industries. Since now I've got to escort President Myers to a safe location while acting as her personal bodyguard. I remove President Myers' tracking chip, we avoid detection, and we make our way to an area with a vehicle that we can use to escape. The place is crawling with guards, and I'm able to take out a couple of them using stealth takedowns and my focus enhancement AUG, but eventually I get into a firefight with them using my Mustang Arms 357 Magnum. I also use my machine gun and my Widowmaker TX Tech 1 since the president's life is on the line, and after taking down all the uniformed tangos, I escort President Myers to a safe location, and we make a new plan to attempt to escape the Bargus dogs and rendezvous with Songbird so that the two of them can get out of Dogtown. We try to escape through an old exhibit, but Hansen's troops track us down, and we've got to hold out until Songbird can cook up something to save us. I had a really tough time with this section, but after staying moving constantly with my Icarus Dash and Quicksilver Reflex Booster, and killing as many of Hansen's dogs as I could with my machine gun and Widowmaker, I was able to hold off long enough for Songbird to take over some kind of crazy powerful spider tank thing called a Chimera and wipe everyone out. Unfortunately, it got corrupted somehow and started attacking me and President Myers. After getting the president to safety and barely surviving the ensuing attack from this thing, we reunite, but the Chimera comes back to life and the boss fight against it begins. The boss fight was fairly straightforward and honestly pretty easy all things considered. Even though I died twice, but like only twice, a rarity for boss fights on the hardest difficulty. I spent most of the first half of the fight jumping on it, or Icarus dashing around it, while shooting its weak spots with the TX Tech 1, and for Phase 2, I used my machine gun to clear out the drones it released, and emptied the rest of my machine gun ammo on it until I ran out, and it released its toxic gas, at which point I rose up and swapped back to the Widowmaker TX Tech 1. After that, I finished it off with my Widowmaker, and then ripped out its heart with my nanoblades to keep as a weapon mod for the future. With the President secure, we used a secret passage through an underground transportation tunnel to an abandoned apartment we could use to lay low until Songbird could get back to us, something she hadn't done since the Chimera incident, and we could orchestrate a plan to meet up and escape Dogtown. I get the power up and running, but while the President and I are enjoying drinks together and listening to Hansen's yapping, we get some unexpected company. I negotiate between them and Myers, and we agree to share our place with Jacob and Taylor, two everyday Joes that seem to just be trying to get by in Dogtown, on the condition that they'll be compensated for their help and silence. Next morning, Songbird hasn't shown, so I get officially sworn in as a member of the FIA and take the oath, and now I've got to team up with an undercover wet work expert FIA agent Solomon Reed to get Rosalind out of here and find and rescue So-Mi. I get into Captain Caliente and make the special phone call for Solomon and I to meet up, and after getting vetted to make sure this isn't a setup, we talk details in his car. I catch him up, and he and I meet back with Rosalind, where Roz and Saul hash out some old wounds, but Saul ultimately decides to help me find and save So-Mi since he considers her to be his mentee and responsibility. Solomon seems like a straight shooter and actually quite a bit like Adam, so having him as my partner for this op actually seems pretty cool. While Reed gets Myers back to Washington safely, I do a car repo for El Capitan and start that whole questline, which I actually love since I feel like we really didn't get a lot of El Capitan in the main game. Drove over to my apartment and had a nice date with Pan Am. Drove over to the No-Tell Motel and accepted a job from Lizzie Wizzy since I guess I did it in my very first playthrough pre-Cyberpunk Revival, but not this one. Met up with Carrie for the first time since the Final Samurai concert and helped him blow up some Uscracks equipment and escape, getting the absolutely gorgeous Mercman mobile in the process. Had a heart-to-heart with old Carrie about why he's doing this and why he hates Uscracks. Drove back to Dogtown to find Aaron, a young boxer that's trying to get out of the gang life and needs my help getting him to a Ripper so that he can remove some cyberware that basically forces him to take a dive in his fight so that his gang, the Animals, can get money off of the bets. Met up with Aaron and used my Longsword 203 ERSR to pick my way through said Animals to said Ripper Doc, and got that Ripper Doc, Damier, to fix Aaron as best as possible under the conditions. Unfortunately, it was at this point that Angie, the leader of the Animals pack in Dogtown, came to try to stop us. By unfortunately, I mean for Angie, since while I tried to be pragmatic and peaceful, I stood firm in doing right by Aaron and giving him a second chance, which got me into a fight with Angie since she unreasonably persisted, starting the fight by immediately short-circuiting Angie. Then I use my longsword to blow off the head of one of her hustles and drop another one and no-scope the last one a half a second after. With it down to just me and Angie, I reboot her optics and double headshot her with the Longsword 2 for the win. Aaron's thankful, we Delta, and Reed calls me, letting me know that Rosalind is back relatively safe in Washington, and that it was time to meet the third agent we were going to need for this operation, Alex. Plot twist, the bartender Daphne was secretly disguised Alex! Well, her and Saul do some hashing of old wounds. Seems to be a pretty common problem for these guys, but I can't really say anything either. And once Alex begrudgingly accepts the circumstances with a little clarity from Saul and a little urging from myself, we've got our dream team. Alex then gives us our new target, Slider, an ex-Voodoo Boys runner that should be able to help us find out where Song is or what happened to her. Before I head over to Slider's hideout, I drove over to the Riot Club in my new Caliburn Mercmobile to meet with Carrie, helped Carrie enter the club and hold up the then-performing Uscracks at gunpoint, talked him down from doing anything crazy, and actually fostered a friendship between them over their common hatred of Carrie's backstabbing manager. And then I meet up with Reed to sneak into Slider's place and request his assistance with this investigation. First I get in through the vents and avoid the traps. Now I've just got to get to the man himself, one stealth takedown at a time. Fighting through the Slider was a smidge too chaotic and difficult even with my Hurricane TMP-18, so I decided to total stealth this section. It takes some trial and error to find the right stealth formula, but I eventually figure out exactly what I need to do to take out every enemy in my immediate path with Reed, but I accidentally believe I have to destroy this thing, which I don't. This time I see the path branching off and find Slider. We convince Slider to help us, and we find out that So-Mi is using the power of the Black Wall, which is unfortunately corrupting her. He digs deeper to find her, and Song is able to connect with us briefly to give us her location, but it flatlines Slider. Using Reboot Optics, my Glass Shield cloaking system, and my Focus Enhancement AUG, I'm able to stealth semi-cleanly out of there when Slider's boys come a-knockin'. Now we've got to get into Hansen's party in the Black Sapphire to save Song, but first we have to figure out how to get in there, and we've got to formulate her escape. We turn to an old fixer buddy from the main game, Mr. Hands, for help, but we've got to do 3 Dogtown gigs for him before he's willing to help. Not long after, Carrie gives me a ring and asks me to head to a given location for a surprise, so I decide to knock that out first. I head over in that awesome Mercmobile that honestly has Deus Ex vibes, and when I get there, I get to witness the tail end of a Carrie Eurodyne Us Cracks collab show. I got the rockstar treatment for a bit, which of course Adam was characteristically awkward and uncomfortable with, and then I reaffirm my bromance with Carrie. With that done, I've also got a meeting with Aaron to see how he's holding up. When I arrive, I had to take out some animal goons with my Hurricane TMP-18, but I didn't really think anything of it. That is, until a bystander at our meeting spot said he left with 2 animal goons. Unfortunately, they retaliated against Aaron and killed him, but at least he died with his morals intact rather than living on the leash of the animals. Next, I'm doing a favor for probably one of my favorite characters in this DLC, Father Blanco. His clinic's undergone a hostile takeover from some scavs, and one of his doctors is being held hostage. So I clear out the goon squad with my 203 ERSR, which of course doesn't take long since this thing's a one-tap machine with headshots. Then I find Nika, the scav leader, holding Dr. Anthony at gunpoint. Apparently, her brother Gasper was here, but because he was a lost cause, Doc Tony over here killed him and wants to take his implants to give to other patients. Nika, well, she doesn't like that, and she starts beating Anthony, and while I sympathize with her, I can't very well just let her beat this guy to death. So I try to stop her, and she retaliates by trying to kill me, so I then have to respond in turn by relieving her brains from her skull. This ungrateful swit then preaches to me about how hard his job is and says that I can't judge him, so I just leave and let Father Blanco know everything's clear, but Anthony's been zeroing people for implants. Next for Hands is a hit job on a voodoo boy named Milko Alexis. So I sneak through his base and silently take down as many guards as I can as I do, and I even find a hostage supplier that gives me a tip on how to beat Milko's robot army. When I got to said robot army, I tried to shoot what I believed to be the servers to one-shot the boss like I thought the supplier explained, but I guess I did it wrong because I just had to do the boss fight normally. Using my Huntsman Silverback to push the robots back and deal as much damage at close range around corners as possible, I eventually finished off the last of them. I then made a deal with Netwatch agent Alan Noel to spare Milko so that Netwatch can take down his whole organization, including the guys giving Milko orders, to save people all along the coast since Adam would definitely value the lives of the many over completing some contract. Doesn't matter anyway, as Netwatch places my client under WITSEC, so I saved those people and fulfilled my obligations. My last job for Hands was a job for Stella, the fiancée of a cop named Bill, asking me to rescue her fiancé and his buddy Charlie, who had gotten themselves into some deep trouble with a criminal named Dodger. I take out all the Bargus security stealthily and found Charlie and Bill trapped in an interrogation room covered in gore with a dead dissected criminal on the table. They explained that the dead guy stole Dodger's drugs and they captured him for the bounty, but the gonk swallowed all 7 ounces of synth coke he stole, and it killed him, so they had the genius idea to cut it out of him, which, didn't work. I sneak them through the rest of the station to the garage for a getaway, but Dodger catches us. I have them explain the situation, and Dodger is so amused that, coupled with the fact that I non-lethally took down all of his men, he lets them go. So they get into a cruiser and drive away. Unfortunately, when they do, they hit Dodger, so I've got to fight him and his men anyway. I take them down with my nanoblades like I took out Smasher, and that's job complete. Before going to talk details with Hands about the Black Sapphire infiltration, I got proof that Liam, Lizzie's manager and crush, was trying to back up and edit her soul, and gave that proof to Lizzie, met up with an old colleague from Arasaka and talked him down from trying to kill me, and then drove over to the Heavy Hearts Club and talked shop. I finally got to meet Mr. Hands in person, and we get a bit of background on Hansen, specifically his being an ex-colonel of the NUSA who was sent here during the war, but was abandoned and decided to hunker down and take over a part of NC for himself, Dogtown. Hands gives me a data shard with the floor plans of the Black Sapphire, and I take a detour and go on a yacht ride with Carrie, and blow up said yacht, his backstabbing manager's yacht, in revenge. Then I head back to Reed where I nearly collapse and die, and Reed tells me his backstory of basically being the sacrificial lamb of the NUSA that nearly cost him his life. The reason that Alex was upset with him, her believing that he was crooked and not knowing he was just a scapegoat. We get the power on in the secret underground base. Reed explains that he's so determined to save Songbird because he's the one that recruited her and feels like her captain. Alex joins us, and I give them the data shards so that we can get together a plan to break in and save Song. Before we break into the Black Sapphire though, I took care of a couple of available quests. I drove out to the dam and met up with Capitan Reyes. He sent me on a mission with his friend Daniels to clip some life-saving equipment from Arasaka for the people of Santo Domingo. I met with Daniels, stealthed through the shipyard unnoticed, nabbed the truck, used my Mustang Arms 357 Magnum to save an ungrateful Daniels, and got the equipment to Muammar. Then I blitzed back over to Dogtown at light speed in this thing, and I swam through the abandoned tunnels into the Black Sapphire. While moving through, I took down the tunnel search party with my TRQ-203C longsword. Then I almost got Reed through the tsunami section unnoticed, but had to help him clear out the resisting forces at the end when I messed up, and then Reed and I got tripped out and joined the party. I talked with everyone there, and it was really fun to see and talk to some of the most famous people in Night City. Some of them I was even personally familiar with. Then we made contact with So-Mi where she and Reed reunited, and she explains that the Black Wall is killing her, so she betrayed the NUSA for a cure Hansen discovered, but she plans to clep it and split. Then Hansen shows up and tries to suss us out and take Song away. Then Songbird reestablishes our relic comlink and devises a plan where I assume the identity of the Redhead twins to infiltrate Hansen's base and get the Black Wall cure and Song in one fell swoop. The Lizzie Wizzy show was stunning, the visuals were amazing, and the song was actually really good. And this Kenneth Copeland televangelist wannabe proves he's actually the real deal. Reed and I discuss the whole situation, and I catch him up on the plan. I buy a ton of chips, flirt with Aurora for a couple of minutes, win big on roulette, and accidentally complete the brain scan I totally knew I was doing when I was flirting and gambling. Unfortunately, Hansen's smelly face pops up and reveals that he knows we're FIA, and he had Salt beaten up and we're being asked to leave because he's onto us. After finishing my nice little chat with Kurt, I catch up with Lizzie and get her weird headpiece, and Saul and I head out and he says he's gonna need a day to work out the details of the new plan, so in the meantime, I drive over to the Glen and catch up with Bill, who retired from the police force and is now running a Preem food stand. Drove out to the wasteland and took out this big exosuit cyber psycho. I, for some reason, got glitched out of Dogtown, but eventually found a workaround. Then I did this funny Dogtown mission where a fan of BD star Lena something or other accidentally fried his chrome dome and believed he was Lena. So I had to convince her to come and help him, but the Dogtown glitch was preventing me from saving, so I had to get that ironed out first. Eventually I got it handled and texted Judy and Vic for advice, with them telling me I needed something of sentimental value to bring the guy back to his senses. I took a break on that one, since because of all the hoops I had been jumping through to fix the glitch, I had gotten a bunch of new jobs, like one for Lizzie Wizzy to help her cover up a murder. Doing the quest didn't really feel very Adam Jensen-y, and I probably should have declined in hindsight, but I've never done this quest before and I wanted to see what would happen, and I at least let her know how disapproving I was. Next, I drove Old Reliable to Bree's apartment, where I got an access card for Mr. Hands, and then Delamain drove me back to Dogtown to meet up with Bree herself. I also got a relic point while looking for her, and get the last level of the Glass Shield cloaking system tree. She almost blows my head off, but after helping her through an old Militech base and helping her get her hands on some secret Militech info about some super weapon they made to rival Arasaka's Soul Killer, we get ambushed by some Militech special agent Caruso. Bree definitely seems shady here, but Caruso drew on her and was going to kill her, and he didn't exactly seem like such a good person himself. Shady as she was, at least she seemed to want to expose the truth, whatever her motivations, so I zeroed Caruso with my Widowmaker TX Tech 1. After that, I got a nice reward from Netwatch agent Noel for working with him on the Voodoo Boy Netrunner case. I guess justice does pay. Since I was in the area, I decided to finish up that Lena mission, where I wiped out her whole crew with my Widowmaker, tried to appeal to Lena's better nature, and when that didn't work because she's a piece of garbage, I lied to her to get her to play ball. Then I drove my 100-ton monster Hellhound truck over to Regina's to finish up the Cyber Psycho quest real quick, and then I helped Blue Moon with her stalker problem right after. Finally, I drove over to Shank's place and directed the scene between Lena Molina and whoever this chick on the left is, bringing Tool back to his senses. Next mission was a car repo. I drove over in my unstoppable tank, and what else do I find but Jerry Platinum Arm? That leads me to these goons, who I wipe out with my mobile artillery platform and get a knockoff of Johnny's 930, a Cabriolet 930. I take the beauty back to Alex's safe house, and while I was there, I got another Longsword 2203 ERSR that I slapped the Wall Puncher mod on, as well as upgraded my TRQ 203C Longsword to an orange tier with an orange tier packs. After some catch-up and team bonding, we go over the details of the final plan to rescue Songbird from Hansen. Before we start the final mission, Somi and I meet up and she talks about her plan, and we talk about why she betrayed the NUSA and a bit about her past and her predicament, before she reveals that she plans to take the Blackwall Cure and disappear with it in the confusion, leaving Hansen and the NUSA behind. I then decided to report to Reed, but decided to keep everything about Songbird's plan need to know. To set up for the plan, I had to drive over to a tracking station receiver on top of the VDB church, where I took out all the Gangoon guards with my new and improved Zenith CA40, Her Majesty. Then I hacked the first of two receivers, drove over to the other, I steamrolled the gonks there, and hacked that one too. Now we have access to the Cassell twins car network. Alex and I do some bonding before the mission and before her retirement. I drive over to Farida's clinic and get the silver bullet to take out Songbird if things go sideways, and the AUG to assume Emmerich Cassell's identity, and finally the plan can begin. First, I get into the trunk of the Cassell mobile, and then remotely hack the Cassell twins' car and drive them to a remote location where we knock them out and tie them up. Oh, no. Okay, we just brutally murder them. Definitely didn't sign off on that one, but I guess it's done. Then Alex and I assume their identities and rizz up Hansen with all of our correct information and being in character. And we get access to Song and the Militech Blackwall Cure weapon thingy. Initially, I was actually going to help Songbird, though I was conflicted and was hoping Reed would understand, but after Song explains the innocent casualties her plan would bring about and expresses a complete and utter lack of any regard to these deaths, valuing her freedom over their lives, I knew I couldn't risk her plan or her being unchecked. I decided to betray Song, knowing that she'd still be able to go free, but not risking people's lives and not without talking about the situation with Saul. Somi catches on at the last second, and Hansen kills Alex, because of course he did. Retirement and bonding? Her death flags might as well have been garrison flags, but it doesn't matter in terms of the plan, as sad as it is, since the icebreaker takes out Songbird, but only to the point that instead of zeroing me, she uses her Blackwall powers to escape, destroying everything in her path. I sneak past all the Bargus dogs using stealth takedowns in the upgraded Zenith CA40, get my stuff back, and sneak past Hansen with my glass shield cloaking system and escape, regrouping with Reed to give a sit rep about what just happened with Alex and Song. Somi then gets captured by MaxTac, so now we've got to rescue her. Since it felt like the bottom of the ninth here, I decided to quickly finish up some other things I had waiting on the sidelines. I got Slider's stash, took a job from Mr. Hands for Michael, a man who was forced to testify against his innocent son, to erase his testimony, wherein I climbed to the top of the Heavy Hearts Club and even found a cool unique weapon cause I can. I stealthed through the Heavy Hearts Club VIP section to the room of the prosecuting attorney, DA Georgina Zembinski, who explained that the son wasn't guilty of this specific crime, but was guilty of other things and had a connection to a Valentino Big Fish that they needed to exploit, and that Michael had been paid off for his testimony, but was afraid of the recourse from his son, and thus called this job to prevent his son from finding out his father betrayed him. But she's trying to frame Eric for a crime he didn't commit just to nab his boss, so I make her delete the testimony, but at the very least I know that Michael did in fact sell off his kid for that testimony money, and I let him know how disgusting that is when I return to him. With all that done, I contacted Hands for a favor, specifically for his help figuring out the route for MaxTac shipping Somi to Los Padres so that we can hit it and rescue her. I drop 15k eddies, and Hands gets me a meeting with a runner in Kabuki that can help. While I wait for 10 hours to pass for the meeting, I knock out Killing in the Name, where I drive my Hellhound over to my apartment, read the Bartmoss collective message, call Nancy about Swedenborg, drive my beast to the coordinates she gave me, get the first message, drive to the signal source and flatline an entire group of scav scoppers with my 4-wheel tank and my machine gun, hack the router, drive to the next signal in my snappy 930 since my Hellhound's on cooldown, and play this game of message to router a couple more times until I find Swedenborg, a fortune-telling machine that was hacked to post the Bartmoss messages by a troll. It was time for the meeting at this point, so I cruise over on Jackie's bike and hey, it's Yoko, T-Bug's buddy from the beginning of the game, small world. She gives us MaxTac's route, and we agree to give Hands the hit's coordinates so he can have someone come through and collect what's left after the inevitable fight. Reed sets everything up, and I blitz over on him on my Kusanagi Peacekeeper for the actual final rescue attempt. Reed's enlisted the help of some old 6th Street connections and gotten some equipment as well, so I set up the ambush. Reed and I have a good heart-to-heart where he actually confides in me, and I reassure him that we're gonna save So-Mi, and then the fight against MaxTac begins. I lead using my Overwatch, my Steiner Bisley Model 7.62 battle rifle, to take out the cops and robots, and then I release the beasts. The Steiner Bisley does exceptionally in this boss fight. Reed stuns them with his shot, and then I land a critical headshot that does some serious damage, rinse and repeat. Asher Peterson, the Mantis Blade MaxTac officer, got a little close for comfort once, but being that he was already at low health and the Adam Jensen build and AUGs give some great mobility options, I made out just fine. Just look at how quickly I melt these guys. I'm telling you, this build is fantastic even without stealth as long as you've got the weapons to make it good. Faye goes down, and after an extended game of peekaboo that I ended with some aggressive hide-and-go-seek, Jasper joins her. So-Mi was less than receptive of our help, and Reed was alive but injured, so I had to go take Song in by myself. We find Cynosure, Militech's answer to Soulkiller and a cyberspace nuke, and So-Mi is here to create a permalink to the Black Wall, so we've got to stop her and save her from herself, all while she doesn't trust us and wants to kill us because of Black Wall corruption. We get a bunch of Songbird's flashbacks, and we eventually fight our way to her despite her best efforts to stop us, and in spite of the giant invincible Black Wall spider monster she sicked on us. That'll either glitch you into a wall forever, or kill you instantly if it spots you, which wasn't too difficult for me seeing as this is a pretty stealth-oriented build and I have the glass shield cloaking system. But at the last second, I'm nearly killed by the creature before Songbird stops it, and, after wrestling back control, fully explains her backstory and situation, being that of an exceptional hacker who was drafted by Saul at a pretty young age to work for the NUSA. She went through a lot of stress at work and with her home life because of the job and the Blackwall stuff, and now it's degrading her memory, leaving her unable to maintain control of herself. She asks me to kill her and put her out of her misery, but for threefold reasons, I opt to save her instead. 1, I believe that Adam Jensen would try to do whatever he could to save her, regardless of the circumstances. 2, neither I nor Adam Jensen would want to betray Reed like that. And 3, for an honestly petty personal reason that I'll never tell anyone and will probably take to my grave. Reed and I get her to an evac helicopter where the NUSA will supposedly help her, but at least she'll hopefully be getting treatment, and perhaps Reed and I can bust her out one day if she's being detained against her will, and I speak to Rosalind, who after hearing all about her, I've lost all respect for. Regardless, I was conflicted whether or not Adam would act on his moral indignation and be rude to Rosalind and not accept her award, or if he would swallow his disgust and play nice out of respect for the office and the country, and this is what an AI of Adam Jensen had to say.
I would accept the medal, but only to keep up appearances. The NUSA are just as corrupt as Militech and Arasaka, so I don't trust them one bit. The only ones I truly trust are my crew, Alex, Fareed, and Reed. We've all seen too much to believe that the NUSA has any kind of honorable intentions when it comes to the protection of their citizens, or indeed, anyone else.
Being that that's exactly what I thought he'd do, that's exactly what I do. Reed and I sat and talked about the whole situation, wondering if we did the right thing and stewing over our regrets, and Reed wanders off, marking the end of the run. Or so I thought. Johnny and I then mull over everything that happened, and we actually have a very engaging and respectful philosophical discussion where we both strengthen our relationship with each other. Here's something fun. I recorded all of that on like the first week of March, but for this, I'm recording right after this on the 20th of April. So let's reach the conclusion of this long, twisting, and exciting spy adventure, and then I'll finish with my closing thoughts. Alright, I just finished it, and just know that I write this part of the script with tears welling in my eyes and a tight throat. So I met up with Reed and he explained that Songbird is alive, but damaged beyond repair, though she might return to active duty. That bothered me, that they'd be using her as their puppet again, but Reed and I both agreed that at least she was alive, at least there was a chance she could get her life back one day. Reed told me that my cure was being prepared, and after a couple of quests to keep me busy until the go call, even getting a cool Blackwall OS that can like Blackwall melt people, I got the call from Reed and decided not to go through with the surgery since I don't think Adam would wipe Johnny after all they'd been through. That said, I also wanted to see the true ending of the Phantom Liberty DLC, so I decided to push forward with a what if Adam Jensen accepted. I'm not sure how Johnny felt about that initially because he just ghosted me for some reason, but I boarded the AV to head to Langley for my operation, and damn it if I didn't cry a little when Johnny delivered that final line.
Good night, Vincent. Today was a good day.
Well, I wake up 2 years later and augless, so effectively not even V anymore, let alone Adam, and Reed catches me up. They've cut him off from Songbird and put him on perma-desk duty, but I'm still holding out hope for her, and Saul opened up a job with him at Langley if I ever want it. My apartment got repoed, Vic wants to see if he can get my implants back online, River's life spiraled after a crooked deal for Randy's medical expenses, Pan Am's ghosting me, Carrie's more concerned with his new surge of popularity than me, and Judy's married on the other side of the country, so I've basically lost all my friendships and relationships. One good thing, I suppose, Yorinobu got the boot and Arasaka's out of NC, but Militech just stepped up to replace them. I get to Vic on my old buddy Delamain, but Misty's gone and Vic, for all of his good intentions, just can't help. After getting my face smashed by some dipwads, Misty comes to my rescue, helps me to accept my new life, leaves to work in an ancient Polish forest, and that's it. I went from being Adam Jensen to just another face in the crowd. Other developments unfold, like Rogue's doing well and saying I'm always welcome at the afterlife, but coming back might diminish my legacy. Takamura and Hanako tried to take Arasaka back but failed, resulting in Hanako's death, Goro's being framed for it, and his 2 years in hiding. And I'm pretty sure Mama Wells is gone. An extremely bittersweet ending, as I've gained the most important thing of all, my life, but it cost me everything else. So, for closing thoughts, the story and gameplay of Phantom Liberty was everything you guys hyped it up to be, everything I could have ever wanted or hoped for, and this run was everything I could have dreamed of. The spy-themed story fit Adam Jensen and Deus Ex perfectly, the build worked even better here than in the base game, and there were tons of cool moments and fun experiences, absolutely fantastic stuff. Alright, well, that's the run. I hope you guys enjoyed. I was able to get this video out pretty quickly after the last video, because I actually recorded the bulk of the gameplay for this video in between NG and NG Plus runs for the Dark Souls challenge, but I knew the ending had to be fresh. Well, for the next Cyberpunk video, I'll put up a couple polls for what character to do next, maybe choices like David or Johnny or Adam Smasher, maybe JC Denton, we'll see, and stuff like which ending I'll choose, etc, etc. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed watching this run even half as much as I did playing it. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Truthfully, I let you down. I let so many down too. But you, I can still help. Maybe I'll stop feeling so damn... Just drop me a line, will you?